Tariff war and Xi Jinping's move, a blow to America, now trying to woo Europe. Imagine a time when two superpowers stand face to face, and neither is willing to back down. On one side is America, imposing tariffs of up to 145%, and on the other is China, which has already retaliated with a 125% tariff strike. But the real story doesn't end there. China is now about to play a diplomatic card that has turned the world's attention toward Europe. The question is, what does Xi Jinping now want from the European Union? Is this a plot to isolate America? Or another masterstroke by China? And the biggest question, is the world heading towards a new economic war? Today, we will discuss this topic in depth. But before that, if you are new to our channel, please don't forget to subscribe so that you receive the latest updates from us first. So, without any delay, let's begin today's discussion. This tariff war between the US and China has been heating up since the beginning of April. The Trump administration imposed import duties of up to 145% on Chinese products, a move that directly challenged China on the economic battlefield. But instead of backing down, China retaliated fiercely with a 125% tariff on American goods. The message was clear: China would no longer respond with just trade, it would now counter with strategy. This wasn't merely an economic response, but a global signal that unilateral rules would no longer be accepted. China is in no mood to bow down to the US under any circumstances. In fact, it is preparing to counter America on every front. As part of this strategy, President Xi Jinping has now turned to Europe. He has openly urged the European Union to stand against America's unilateral bullying. Furthermore, China's Ministry of Finance issued a statement declaring that if the US tries to harm China's interests, then China is ready to fight till the end. This statement reflects China's strategic resolve to confront the US on both economic and diplomatic levels. This means the tariff war is no longer confined to just China and the US. It has now evolved into a global diplomatic equation. China has taken this battle in a new direction. During a conversation between President Xi Jinping and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez, this shift became evident. Jinping stated that Europe and China should unite to counter US pressure and oppose such bullying practices that disrupt the balance of global trade. According to him, the time has come for developed nations to come together and strengthen multilateralism. However, the Spanish Prime Minister did not directly accept Jinping's appeal. He acknowledged that Europe does have a trade deficit with China, but also emphasized that this shouldn't halt further relations. His message was clear: there is indeed a trade imbalance, but cooperation with China will not be severed. He stated that both sides should work together to address and correct this deficit. In this light, Jinping's appeal was not outright rejected, but it wasn't fully embraced either. Europe is still trying to maintain a delicate balance. Despite this diplomatic effort, the US response has remained firm. President Trump defended his tariff decisions, stating that America only seeks fair treatment from the world. He also declared that the US would no longer compromise on its interests. Meanwhile, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent issued a direct warning: if China retaliates, it will face consequences. But China has made it clear that it will not back down and is ready to fight on every front. This is the response of a new China that is staring down US policy without flinching. What initially seemed like a trade dispute has now turned into a battle of global alliances. China is no longer dealing with the US alone, it is trying to forge ties with other major blocs like the European Union, ASEAN nations, and international trade organizations. Prime Minister Li Qiang and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi are actively working to implement this strategy. It is a multi-layered plan that aims to challenge the US on economic, diplomatic, and political fronts. Li Qiang recently met with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. China described this meeting as sending a positive message to the outside world. According to Beijing, it wants to deepen its cooperation with the European Union in areas such as trade, investment, and industrial development. China hopes that by working together, it and Europe can define a new direction to counter America's pressure tactics. The clear intention behind this move is to position China as a viable alternative in global trade. However, China's strategy is not limited to Europe. It is also rapidly strengthening ties with Southeast Asian nations, i.e., 𝐟𝐨𝐥𝐸𝐴M countries. Wang Yi has made direct outreach efforts to solidify alliances with these nations. China's approach is not merely about responding to the United States, it is about building an alternative global trade network to undermine America's economic dominance. This is not just a competitive maneuver, but a bold bid by China to claim a stronger position in global leadership. The most significant development is that China has reassured global business leaders as well. Li Qiang has made it clear that China is prepared for all kinds of uncertainties and, if needed, will introduce new policies. In other words, China is not only confronting the United States head-on, but is also signaling that it is unshaken by global instability. With this stance, China wants to portray itself as a stable and reliable partner for global trade. Now, the world is closely watching which side Europe will take in this standoff. Will it support the United States, with whom it shares long-standing NATO ties? Or will it try to strike a balance with China to prioritize its own economic interests? At the moment, countries like Spain are not giving a definitive answer, but one thing is certain, this topic is being hotly debated across Europe. Nations like France, Germany, and Italy are actively discussing whether leaning toward the US is the right move, or whether maintaining a strategic balance with China is more important. This entire sequence of events is clearly escalating pressure on the United States. On one side is China's aggressive strategy, and on the other, Europe's hesitation. This is becoming a major diplomatic challenge for the Trump administration, especially since the US projects itself as a fair global leader, but its decisions increasingly resemble economic coercion. China's strategy has now become a chessboard for the US, where every move conceals a larger plan. Whether Xi Jinping's strategy will ultimately succeed remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, China is now openly challenging the US on both diplomatic and trade fronts. And this clash is no longer just about tariffs. It has become a battle for global leadership. It's a confrontation where not only rules but relationships are at stake. And for that reason, the coming days could prove to be decisive, not only for the US and China, but for the entire world.
If our video has taught you something new, do not forget to like and share this video so that this information can reach others as well. Your likes and shares are a source of inspiration for us. If you have any questions or suggestions, please let us know in the comments. It will be our honor to answer your questions and listen to suggestions. And yes, if you like our content, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you stay connected with every new story. Thank you. GRT Business YouTube channel sources, news from various news agencies, opinion polls and other public sources. We try to ensure that every report and summary is accurate and verified, but we are not responsible for any dispute or error. Our aim is only to provide you with accurate information.